Yeah, and are we far away, by the way? Well, this is the cross streets are always, we're okay. 8:15.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then they wait a long time, huh?
When were you last time here in New York?
Oh, years ago. So I hardly ever
You like the city?
No, I'm not a big city person.
You were out in the outback there in California.
Yeah.
Hacienda.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, cactus?
I'm in the kind of suburbs, but I'm here because of you, Audie.
Why are we here, Doctor?
Okay, we're gonna look that spectacular Ruby 55.22 carat that will be auctioned today. It's gonna measure all the angles. It will be unmounted for us to see whether they're correct or not, take the full potential for the brilliancy out of the stone. And we're gonna have a nice sharp discussion together.
I don't have my dice stroke to tell, but can you tell which way the C-axis is running?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you in just a moment.
Here, this way.
We have two rays going into the stone. There it is, yeah, that's the silk, but just because the light is hitting it, you're gonna capture that purple or violet zone.
And making a recutting projection of whether it will be 1.5 or 2 carat to cut down to achieve this beautification process.
The girdle is thick,
Yeah, really thick.
medium to thick. And
It's okay, that's where they stuff all the weight.
That is weight in there.
That was all the weight in
Well,
there.
that's understandable.
Yeah.
You can fasten the girdle.
Faceting the girdle, you'll probably get 1/4 of a carat out of it. That's it. Not much.
Yeah, so this is a nice potential. Glenn is the guy who has like this elaborate master cutting workshop, and he takes his time for the stones. It's the 1-to-1 master cutter that you were giving only the special things, and then he is there and
That's where you're picking up the violet colors.
takes his time.
That's why it's going this
Yes.
way.
Yeah, and takes the max out of it with almost no weight loss.
To pull the life out of the center of the stone. Right now it's off center and one of the sides is completely windowed because the culet is off center, which means the point at the bottom is way off to one side.
So now we're talking about pushing the culet, because you see how off-centered the culet is? Yeah. Very off-centered. And that's why I want to measure the angle. So what they have is a steep side like this, and then they have a windowed side like that. And what you can do is push this side over to push the culet over, and then from here just step it up to get it in so you have enough material to put this side into the refractive index range. At around 37.5 is ideal at the culet.
And that's where all the beauty is. And the 1/3 of the stone at the bottom is where all the brilliance normally is performed. And it's all created at the bottom third of the
So
stone.
light actually comes into the stone. It's slowed down. It's 1.76.
Right.
You want them to hit the plane down, so they're not going out. They're refracted, and so that is
Bouncing back and forth. That is coming back up to the.
It's a critical angle depending on the light of speed in the stone.
Right.
It's called refractive index in a formula. And so now you need to find the angle and the where you want to have it out of the table. And that optimization process is like a long period of experience you need to have, like 40 years.
Well, it's still within the 37.5, so it's still at the refractive index. That's why it shows up so nicely.
Yeah, right.
But the culet off center really makes it is windowed right there. There we go, right there. Oh yeah, you're at 70. Oh, well, a lot of meat down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they really have it like 70, so all you have to do is take 5 degrees every step, which will you lose less than a carat.
Because you want to make the mistakes on small stones, not on important stones, and learn from there first.
Right.
And then up the scale, up. So he has made, for me, big stones, and has made miracles that I witnessed myself. So I know how he works, how he's doing it. It's like a little laboratory where in the Middle Ages they tried to make gold out of mercury.
Oh, now you're. Say
The
that.
milkiness in the stone gets lost in the process because reflections are becoming more dominant.
And
It'll blast through the silk. Oh yeah, you're still at 37.5. Ooh, you're off by
2 millimeters.
3 millimeters.
3 millimeters.
So pushing it 1.5 millimeters is not that far. You can see, you saw that right away.
Yeah.
Over 1.5 millimeters to bring it over here.
You don't have to correct 100%.
I don't have to overcorrect, just
no, you don't
enough.
have to overcorrect. Not so bad.
Not so bad.
It's not so bad. That's
Not as bad. And what's saving it from being obvious that the culette's off center is the silk.
No, you have to blast the silk out. You cannot use it to cover something up, and it should sparkle more. This stone is not for incandescent light. You see, it changes the ball game with diffused light.
Yeah.
This is
diffused.
This is North Daylight, yeah?
You go to the light of New York, and the stone looks just fantastic. Look at that.
In the natural light, it works.
In the natural light, it's done.
So he's the beautificator, and I'm like the guy less responsibility, right? Who brings the baby to the boss. He's my boss.
We know how it looks in daylight. We can compare it. We look. We screw it.
It's got some brilliance to it, but it's still lacking as bright as it could be because it's a silky stone.
But that is super for the auction.
Yeah, it's perfect.
This is the potential for the buyer.
Yeah, it is.
Because then you can buy it cheaper. Then you can make like a difference by having that knowledge. And we are gonna create that knowledge.
Yes,
And then we walk away from the scene and let's see what happens, because that's a pipeline, we count on it, and somebody is gonna need it.
So, 30 million. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Super clean.
It has a little bit dispersion.
Kind of, you know, it's pretty crazy stone. I never saw anything like that.
Well, Madagascar always surprised with new products.
I know, it's a crazy place.
Yeah.
It's a crazy.
Even with the greens, it's true. Oh man, it's a sunset. Ah, it's very beautiful. And the Alan Kleinen refinement, recutting on the top of it.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Super clean, super crystal.
Ciao.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
We met in Basel.
That's right. I remember it. You put the thumbs up.
Yeah.
Oh.
You are one of my gem heroes, gem celebrities.
How that comes?
Your YouTube videos, all the knowledge you taught me when you go visit the mines, I love it.
Teach me something. So is it the peacock blue?
Yeah, soda light.
No, the blue. Peacock blue?
Yeah.
Good, so I learned something.
Very good.
Bye. Have a nice day.
You too.
I'm right here. Come here, Adi.
Can I?
a hug. Yeah, I needed that.
Good.
How you doing? Good.
Yeah, I was shopping around. Fossils and stuff, and this and here, so,
Right.
you know.
Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good to see you, man.
You are the carving king for me.
Yes.
King.
The king.
The king.
Okay.
You make the carvings, how you call it? Concave.
I actually
convex.
do negative faceting.
Negative faceting.
Like here.
Because sometimes the stone cannot be cut because they have cavities.
Yeah.
And people will make small stones out of
well,
it.
this one was very flat.
Yeah.
It was a big flat piece from Panjshir, and if anybody else would have cut it,
Emerald from Afghanistan.
Afghanistan emerald.
Yeah.
And
Right.
if anybody else would have cut it, they would have ended up with only
Small stones.
maybe a 6-carat stone. I ended up with a 12-carat stone.
Yeah, right.
So like that.
Look how the color comes out.
Yeah.
But it's not created by the light going and reflect like this. It's by this and reflected from here and to there.
So you can see it's actually negative V's. So like inverted pavilions. And they're cut at the precise critical angle so that when you flip it over, it creates
Every carved intended.
brilliance like that.
Yeah.
And I'll show you let me show you
Normally the brilliance is created
green barrel?
by a V shape, where the light comes and comes back up.
That's right.
And now the V shape is turned around and negative inside.
This would be easier to see. So this is a very large green barrel from Brazil, no heat. And I guess if you heated it, you get an aquamarine color, but it's too beautiful, this color. And as you can kind of see, these are all V cuts. And the way that I cut it is You cut one V and then you do an opposing opposite. So each V
Alternating.
reflects on the opposite side. So you're multiplying it.
All right.
And create that. And then what I do is I put a concave table. And whenever you go concave into a stone, it pushes the light farther away. So you create an optical
Illusion.
like that by creating that optical illusion like that.
And so for every type of stone, you have different angles and different widths
Always.
because it depends on the refractive
It's like when I
index.
did that big Madagascar stone for you. I knew how far down I could go to the pavilion, you know, because we know the critical angle of sapphire is 34 degrees. So generally the pavilion angle at the culet, I go maybe 36.5 to 37, because then with the cone of rotation, you'll always get brilliance. So I can go as tight down and squeeze it. That way we got light all the way to the bottom. Did you get a chance to see the stone yet?
Yeah.
Beautiful, huh? What a
Fantastic.
difference. Oh my God. 49.57 carats. That means we've only lost 1.39 carats, but we've been able to pull together an amazing royal blue stone here. Hey, there you are. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, here we are. Well, here, I'm gonna grab the sapphire right now.
Oh, wow.
It's royal colored now.
Oh, yeah, there comes the baby, huh?
Yeah, look at it, it's really royal color now.
Now we have another witness that brings our friendship together.
Yes, of course.
The new 49 karat sapphire.
Yes.
Another miracle of this world.
Right.
Thanks God.
Another great stone. It's really impressive. I can't wait for you to see it.
The point was that sapphire, they were cutting it down and losing weight.
Right.
60 carat, 58 carat, 56 carat. It never changed because they did not calculate the exact critical angles.
Right.
And then they missed it all the time. They did something, they missed it somewhere else.
And the whole bottom, the whole half of the bottom pavilion had no life. Right. And all the life was
and
only
so
around
no life on the top, and then it looked over dark.
It was dark.
And you calculated the angles exactly and made one shot.
That's right.
And it was according to theory, and it lightened up the table.
Before I ever cut a stone like that, I map it out. So I dop it, and then I put it on my polishing wheel, and I get it to right that angle, and then I write down that angle. I say, okay, this one's 58 degrees. Next angle, 49 degrees. Next angle, 44 degree. And I figure it all the way to the pavilion. So then when I can get back up to the culet, I go, okay, now I can squeeze it. Then I can calculate in my mind as I go around what I'm cutting. Of course, they lay random facets all the way around, so some of the
No, they try and error.
Yeah, they went
And
crazy.
with a big volume and many facets, you never get it right,
Yeah.
so it never improves.
Never improves. And what did
Only
I
gets
do?
smaller.
I took a 50 carat, 30 points, and I turned it into a 49, 59, something like that.
Less than a carat.
Less, 1 1/3, 1 carat and a third.
All right, yes.
And it went from a dark stone to this beautiful royal blue.
Right.
It was amazing. That was
Yeah.
an amazing stone.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best corundums I've ever cut.
Really?
That's your stone.
Hello.
Hi.
You remember Sharon, my wife?
Hi there.
Hi, yeah, hi.
It's okay.
So.
Well, they look beautiful. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Knowledge sometimes pays off, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. Well, I think one of the things I've learned doing television, my TV channels and things like that, is the more you can educate, the more you can sell. The more you tell, the more you sell.
Yeah.
So I learned how to tell stories, and when you can tell the story and educate at the same time, I think the purchaser, the buyer,
Buy that story also.
Yeah.
They buy both, the story and the stone.
Yeah, it does. Well, you're a good storyteller too, like me. But no, I think when you really can educate and tell stories.
No, when we combine.
Oh yes.
Then we can never stop.
Oh, we know.
Then we
can never. Yeah,
somebody
we
has
bounce
to
off of each other.
throw us out.
Yeah. We bounce off of each other that way. That way we have a lot to say. Between the two of us, we could go for hours.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I understand you have a couple more large, big sapphires that need recutting too?
Yeah.
Okay. One at a time, right?
Right.
One at a time.
Yeah, the next one
Those
comes.
are significant because those are worth recutting. Now that I've shown you what I can do with that one, you can see what I would do with others. Because the stones just increase in value. Oh, I have a question for you. You know, when we're talking about my museum collection, the book that I gave you.
Yeah.
We're talking about doing a museum exhibition.
Yeah, the cashmere carved, and then the paparazzi royal blue.
Royal blue. That is
and
phenomenal.
paparazzi bicolor.
That's right.
The only in the world.
The only one in the world, right?
Yeah.
The paparazzi and blue sapphire bicolor. That's a phenomenal stone.
And then the cashmere carved.
That's
the big
right.
one.
Oh yeah, of course. Whatever.
And then the
the bezoatite. I mean the putratites.
Yeah, the putrotite.
That collection alone.
Yeah.
Is a standalone.
Yeah, the putrotite. Yeah.
The
and the
putrotite collection.
Yeah, the putrotite collection. Right.
Collection that's
it's unique.
That big stone. You know that big stone.
Yeah, the triangle. Yeah.
If you look up in the Guinness Book of Record, they have a pinkish pale putrotite, and they claim it's the biggest in the world.
And mine is 10 times bigger.
3 times.
3 times bigger.
And cranberry colored, not pink.
All right.
Yours.
So I should claim the.
You should claim it's the biggest. But see, I haven't done any promotion with you because you've told me to keep it quiet.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
so I haven't posted it or advertised, or even mentioned it. I haven't put any of our things on my Instagram.
No, it has to be launched properly and nice and all that.
Hi, Glenn.
Hello, Adi.
Welcome to the museum.
That's right. Long time in the making. We've been working on this together. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I knew about your autobiography, and that you work and are specialized in world record stones and specific single objects and not mass production, and that you are a brand.
Yes, I am.
And so I had this big putrotite crystal.
Right.
And so I had a problem.
Right.
Nobody has anyone.
Right.
And then I didn't know who knows how to cut a putrotite because nobody has experience. So I don't have a second shot. So it had to go to somebody who knows how to do that, and that was challenging for you, wasn't it?
It was a real challenge. I mean, there is no written lapidary work on putrotite because it's so rare. And then when I went to look up whatever putrotite was available, it was all this very pale pink color and not very strong. And this piece was very much a challenge because down the C-axis is where that deep cranberry color, and I don't think anybody, even myself, had ever seen that concentration of color in a putrotite. And I later found out from you that was the only one of the whole mountain range, right? That was that deep.
Yeah, because normally putrotite crystal looks like this.
Right, which is normal, and they call it a pale pink.
A pale pink or nothing, and
right.
So maybe in one direction you can get a little bit pink, and it all comes from one place. That's why we cannot find in different places of the world. In the Mogok Valley,
right.
There's a map I made. This is West Mogok. This is East Mogok is about 30 kilometers, and the putrotite is right here,
right on the upper
up
edge,
here,
right? Yes,
together with yokakidolite. So we were working on yokakidolite, made this book, and then one crystal we had to compare with yokakidolite that was putrotite to separate it and chemically measure. So it's a hexagonal crystal, a borate silicate, and the borate silicates are only very, very exclusive in the world. So actually that's the rock. Although nobody knows how this forms because only we have the rock with some quartz and some feldspar inside the.
Right inside those seams, right?
It starts, here is the putrotite. Wow. That's how it forms. We have to still work on that. So this is the secret of why the Earth are giving us this borosilicate, which is like single crystals only, and you can't count them in the world, right? You can make a number on it, and 1 to 20, 1 to 100, something like that.
That's right. As only you know that, we keep coming across new things. The Earth keeps revealing new types of minerals that didn't exist 50 years ago. And we're talking about the life of, at least 3,000 written history on gemstones, right? And minerals that could be cuttable into gemstones. So to be able to discover new things like the putrutite, which was like, 1960s when they first discovered it?
A single little crystal, and I'm saying there's only one in the world.
Right.
And then we had made a strategy together. Because first of all, of course, you want to have the biggest in the world. Yeah, and you keep, the putrutite had this size, right? A little bit bigger, a couple of 100 carats. And then we had to I wanted a big stone out of it. I said, I want a big stone out of it, gemstone quality, big.
So
and then secondly,
that
has some compromises, but still go top gem, but with compromises, right?
Unheard of, with the one that we pulled off that was so deeply, that's here. That's so deeply rich, but it was about the size. So you always have to compromise, which you would do as well in like comparable made of ruby and sapphire. It's about how big you can preserve it, even though that there's a little bit of an inclusion here and there. You're not going for a flawless gemstone. You're going for the size and the rarity. And like sapphire, you have to deal with the zoning and plus also the direction of the dichroism. Being hexagonal or trigonal, you have two directions with two different colors. And in the case of putrutite, right, in one direction is completely colorless.
White.
And the table will be pushed down according to that problem here. What is this, And
completely white.
You turn it,
and it's such a strong dichroism, as they say, right down the C-axis. And sometimes you have to bend it off or on, but the challenge of any lapidaris like myself is you have to try to get the best color looking through the table.
And not lightening up to become completely white when you slightly tilt it.
And you want to orientate it so you're losing all the inclusions. So you have to balance it between where the zoning color is, where the crystallographic axis is, and then be able to preserve as big of a stone as you can, like in the big 27 carat that's here. That's the world's largest.
The point is, when the light goes into the putrutite, it splits up in the two directions.
Yes.
It's polarized, or maybe three directions. Not two directions because it's hexagonal. And then the two directions go differently in the crystal. And one picks up color and one bit doesn't pick up color. It's a dichroism through polarized light inside the stone in two different directions. And you take a dichroscope, which we did look with the dichroscope through that crystal, we were seeing the two colors and we could calculate where the color come out, but we had all the inclusions and all the rest. So where in this big putrutite to find a gem quality completely clean stone, right? And then we were like, how big will it be? Will it be 50 carats, 60 carats? So, and then it has realities, right? So it cannot be like endless big.
Right. And no, you couldn't have gone for anything bigger than I think I pulled out of the 27 carat because it had the cleanest, overall cleanest general area of the whole stone. And then I had to consider the shape that I was going to cut it in. So I had to make it deeper than maybe normal. So I extended some of the depth of the stone, much like in this way of like a corundum where you're trying to preserve weight. So it's not like beauty, it's also, besides the beauty, you also want to consider the value of the weight that you're holding on
so
to.
how much time did it take to make that one stone here?
Oh, I probably spent close to 20 hours, cutting the stone and at least another 5 hours studying it before I even cut it. Because it came as part of the original...
That was all one crystal?
All one crystal. That was over 300 carats. And there's a few other stones that we have that we don't have out here today. But of course, we'll show you later. But I cut, as I sawed the stone apart to see what I had, I went for all the largest, clearest areas. We were looking for one that was extremely... classical gemstone.
So
preserving the color.
One we said we're going to make it perfect, classic shape, not an fancy shape.
Yeah.
And not deep. We make one which will be considered like a classic cut, classic brilliancy, gem for everybody to understand without explanation or anything. So we wanted to have one like that. So that was this one.
That's the radiant cut, the hexagonal radiant cut. That's still impressive. I think it's over 7 carats. So, anything over 5 carats when you're getting into this quality of putrutite is extremely rare as it is.
And the beauty of the color.
The beauty of the color is unseen of everywhere. If anybody was to look anywhere else for it, they're going to see the lighter pinker colors, maybe rosy pinks, but nothing this deep cranberry color. This is like the only stone. Because I said, as soon as I cut this one, I go, you have any more? We need to do a suite. And you go, that was the only one on the whole mountain. You remember this?
Ever found in the history of gemology.
So this
actually,
is really...
that big piece? when the miner found it, I went back to the mine, you know, and I found the miners, and I got the story of that piece. And it was very impressive to find the whole group there in the mountain. I went in and this and that, and it was a crazy story how I made it in there. But the owner of the stone who found the stone were thinking it's an amethyst, because they're mixing up amethyst and buttertite.
Yeah.
So he went to a laboratory, and the guy, a friend of mine who works with me, was honest and recognized it as a buttertite because they had to make a facet. So the rough came to me with one facet.
To be able to do the RI
reading.
To do the refractive index reading on it?
Yeah, and after that, you know, buttertite wasn't known to appear here. And after that, it became known. So the people were cutting at the mine directly little facets on the amethyst and hoping they have buttertite, you know. It became like a standard practice directly in the mine. There's a small hut at the mine. I was also there. And the hill, it goes like 300-400 meters up. And here is the mountain range behind where it was found. So you climb like 400-500 meters up the hill. It's very steep and go trails like this, and it was an amazing trip up there. There's nobody ever there. I just made it by chance in 10 years ago.
Wow.
So okay, so we have that, and then Glenn, you remember there were some stones that only you can bring out color.
Right. Because they were cutoffs from the big piece that I cut. Once I got the 3 or 4 biggest, largest, you know, classical faceted stones like this, the world's largest, the classical faceted, and then some fancy shapes. Again, like corundum and any corundum and ruby sapphire, it's about grabbing beauty, but it's also about keeping the size, the largest you can. So you do compromise from time to time where there's natural inclusions that you have to leave in the stone. But if you know what you're doing, you can hide it so you don't see it from the table, even though if you turn it on the side, it'll show. That's very classical.
But you make negative carving, right?
Yes.
I call it negative. Is this correct?
Yeah, negative carving.
Yeah.
Where you go in and you do that.
So at the bottom of the stone, actually, you have, instead you carve like this, you carve in like this, and like this, and like this. How come you do this?
Well, the V faceting, well, I love doing, that's kind of where my art is. My art is, I tell people, you know, a lapidarist has to be 3 things. They have to be an artist if they really do the kind of work that I do. They have to understand the technical, so you have to have some science background. I had an undergraduate studies of mineralogy and crystallography, so I had a background in that. I did eventually get my gemology degree, so I applied my mineralogy to my geology. And then you have to be a machinist, because all the tools, especially when you go into what we call negative carving, a machinist, is you have to make your own tools. Because you can't go to a lapidary store and say, okay, or you could go to a diamond company and say, okay, and so the negative V's are just the inverse critical angle of that gemstone. So let's say the critical angle of sapphire is 34 degrees, I'll make the V reverse invertly as a 39 degree. So I stay within that rotational brilliance. So I calculate that, and I have to know that, because I have to know not just my gemology or the critical angles of light traveling through a gemstone, but then I have to know how to do that on a machine tool. And then I hand charge the steel with my own diamond, and I do all of that because it gives me the smoothness. And then I have to repeat that same tool at least 3 times, because it's just like doing woodwork. You have the cut, then you have the sanding, and then you have to do the polishing. And sometimes the sanding, there's 3 steps. Like in corundum, you go from, when you're doing the carving, you're going from 1 degree to cut, the next degree for a kind of pre-polish, then a pre-polish, and then the polish. So and each tool is the same shape, but different mesh of diamond, different particle, micron size of diamond that you push embedded into the soft steel. So you have to have all those skills. So that's what excited me about being a lapidarist, is I had come from the background of not gem cutting and jewelry. I had no background at that. But I was an artist all my life. So I've studied fine art, learned art, paint, photography, things like that. But then when I cut my first stone, I was hooked.
Okay, camera's rolling. Move it around and look at it, right? Swirl it.
screw the diamond wheel up, come in and take a look at it and see how it looks. There we go.
So the exact same metal that this was made out of.
3, 2, 1.
Don't try that at home, kids.
And I had this ruff from Madagascar, the only ruff of a paparaccia together with a royal blue.
That's right.
And I wanted to keep it as the only paparaccia royal blue sapphire in the world and not make two stones out of it.
Right.
And so the rest, you tell the story,
Right.
because you helped me to preserve that.
That's
so
right.
How did
and
it go?
I think we ended up with, what was it, over 60 carats when I started, and I think it's like 47 carats now. And yes, you're right. Normally they would have made most lapidarists might have made an incision right along here to pull the paparaccia off of it and
Right.
lose the blue.
Right.
Okay. There are a lot of paparaccias in the world. The royal blue was so dark that you looked at it, you go, well, this is so dark. If you cut a faceted stone, it would be black. And that's not so desirable.
Or make a smaller one.
Or make smaller ones around it, which would be a shame. So again, I was here to preserve as much as I could, and also the beauty of the natural negative crystals inside here.
Oh yeah, we kept
kept the negative crystals.
The negative crystals are like the trap of the fluid occlusion that formed it, the secret why it's there.
Yeah.
So I said, don't take them out, I want
Right.
them in.
That's
I was
right.
the gemologist talking.
So
keep
as
inclusions.
having enough mineralogy background, I knew what I was preserving. So we're preserving a lot of the crystallography and the gemology of the stone, along with preserving so you would able to see it. So generally, to separate zones, strong zoning like this, you would normally do what would be considered an emerald cut, because the reflection goes from side to side, not from back to forth as well. So you want to be sure that you don't cut too deep of a tip down here, because you would have lost all that color. It would have picked up the blue from that side. So I had to make this angle either shallower or steeper to avoid any reflection of the dark blue coming this way, and maintain it so I would keep as much of the paparaccia color as possible. And also, the stone was so dark that if I had cut it in a traditional faceted stone, the blue would have been so black, and it was shallow as it was. So what I did is I cut, again, that same negative V crystal angle in that I know that would be the critical angle of sapphire, or the optimal pavilion angle, as we say in sapphire. In order to, one, it goes thinner, which lightens it, and two, it's still preserving the color because the angles are right to that critical angle. So it was a combination of where, again, I've shared both disciplines of the faceting
and carving.
and the carving.
So this is the only paparaccia royal blue B-color sapphire in the world. The
And it's
only
huge.
one.
The only one.
The only one.
Yes.
Nobody has it.
No.
Nobody even think that this is theoretically possible.
Right. And
So
even
we had to
and
preserve it.
That I spent many hours studying it, with my friend Brian, your friend as well.
Yeah.
We immersed it
cherished
in a refractive index oil so that we can get rid of all the surface inclusions to see the zoning, where the zoning was in the stone, where the optimal direction to position the table, which is where we say the eye of incidence goes into the stone, and then how you can orientate the pavilion angles to maximize the weight and also maximize the cutting. So it's a very difficult type of art form, because you have to have enough of a scientific background to know the limitations as a lapidarist, where you can go and can't go, because you can spend it and lose thousands and thousands if you cut it wrong.
Then came another sapphires, the over 100 carat cashmere sapphire.
That's right.
Which had a little mineral at the surface.
Okay, this is the initial sawing day, where we're actually going to be working on the 153.39 carat cashmere blue unheated sapphire crystal. As you can see, it's quite large. It's got the characteristic green tourmaline on the center, and right up here at the top is really a truly clear jelly area. Now, traditionally, we would be cutting this part out right here to do a single gemstone.
But your one direction to me was, I want you to keep the tourmaline in there, because that is the absolute proof that it came from the Kashmir area, the only sapphire corundum in the world that has tourmaline found in it.
1/3 of the whole crystal as it was before. Looks like the Himalayan sky.
So that would require going to several different tools. Okay, now we're ready to put in the ultrasonic. Really get it clean. And we're gonna find out what the real final weight is of this cashmere natural blue sapphire carving. Probably the only one of its type in the world.
The piece that you carved for me with the tourmaline actually appeared already in a book.
Oh, wow.
You see?
I haven't seen this book yet.
With
Fantastic.
augmented reality.
Yeah, that's
so
fantastic.
it plays and turns around. The tourmaline was like an extra demand.
Yes.
But I wanted to all the history of the fluids and inclusions also preserved and not cut off, even if it's not gem quality,
That's
because
right.
I could have cut stones and become a rich man.
Right.
I decided not to become a rich man and keep the piece like it is.
Well, and because this is where historically or gemologically it proves the rarity of that stone, where you wouldn't have been able to appreciate it as a raw crystal. One, it wasn't a perfect crystal anyways, but two, you wanted to preserve the internal beauty of the stone, not necessarily the external. And even if you notice right here, this is kind of a peachy pink color. There's not it's
a little bit chromium.
A little pink color.
Now it's 120 carats plus, and that means it is the world record carved cashmere sapphire. And so we were like, no, we're giving up the commercial aspect on it, and we are focusing on art, carving, with a little extra
which the
ping
mineralogical
of a tourmaline,
premium in it.
a little gemological premium on it that shows that we had the knowledge that this one has to be kept.
Yes.
Plus all the fluid inclusions telling the story, the uplift history of the Himalayan, which is written in the fluid inclusions and all the minerals. So we wanted that in. So it's geological history, our joint venture and merger into a new dimension of creating art and gemological world.
Well, together.
And also creating at the same time world record pieces that become a reference, right? And so we are growing together in our particular brands.
That's right. As we go down, 100 years, 200 years from now, they're going to look back and historically be able to identify this piece from a certain era type, lapidarist
it will be in a museum.
and a collection. It is a museum piece for what it is.
Yeah.
It was a very difficult stone.
Without carving in all these negative facets, we would also not have created all these colors that appear,
Yes.
So I knew you can make the negative carve, so you can also make beauty into it in terms of color. So that is not the only piece that will be referenced in the literature. I think you brought me also a surprise.
I did. So this is like 44 years of my culminating, which is certain pieces in my history that I've done. I've won many awards. I've been on over 22 magazine covers. And so historically, I've been building my brand for many years as a lapidarist, gemologist, cutting for gemstones of all sizes. So this collection is actually a culmination like yours and my work, where I work with a very well-known designer named Paula Crevichet. She's one of the most living legends right now, where she's had museums everywhere around the world. And her and I have worked together for 30 years now, where she'll take my gemstone and then turn it into a finished piece of jewelry that then goes to museums or goes to private collectors. This is a culmination of 12 pieces that we did specifically in mind not to sell. So yeah, we're not going to break the 12 pieces apart. One of the conditions is if we sell the collection to a collector or a museum, it has to stay intact as a whole collection. So it's not about, again, if I sold each individual piece, would I become a rich man? Yes, but no, I really wanted it to be an accolade or a moment in my historical record as a lapidarist, culminating it. And many of the pieces in this collection had already won awards from like the cutting edge or the Spectrum Awards, as they call it, which is like the Oscars of gem cutting. Over half of them that are in this book, like this one piece right here, the big 200 carat Ukraine aquamarine, won an award, first place award. And so then I put it in the safe, like you, I collect it, not for sale. And then when she approached me and said, I want to do a museum collection with you, then I pulled out the 6 pieces that already won an award and we started this collection. This collection was completed now, it's now in a museum. But I brought you, there was only 80 books printed. This is not for sale, this book. It was only published for collectors and special clients of mine. And I brought you one of the 80 books. So I want to personally sign it for you today, and then close up of her gold work. So you can see they're all, each piece is, there's many pieces, and I won't go through that now. But for now, this is just for you.
Oh. So now we know how we are gonna appreciate the work you did for us in the knowing the context, you know, of your other work that you do. As far as my opinion, seeing it all different pieces of historical artists in auction houses, which I always visiting all over the world,
yes,
and participating and so on with classical brands of the 30s and the 60s and so on that have appeared. We're seeing another new star at the horizon with new technology and everything, a new brand, a new historical moment. That's you.
When you look back on history, you can look back to the ancient Celtic art or the ancient jewelry art of Egypt, so they know historically in time the approximate date or era period that particular style was developed during. So when people go to auction houses and they see a piece of jewelry there, they go, oh, that's Art Deco. They know immediately it was done by this artist during this historical period, which gives it what we call provenance. And so the intention that Paula and I decided to do, we wanted to create our own moment of history, which is a culmination between her pinnacle as a jewelry designer and my pinnacle of 44 years as a gem artist, and come together where the jeweler and the gemologist or gem carver come together and create a unison. Rarely do the two work together, you know, because in time past, the jewelry designer would see already cut stone, and then they work from that cut stone. But what was unique about Paula and I is, besides the pieces that won awards, many of the pieces in this book, we sat down and described what we wanted. And then I went off and I carved it, and then I brought it back to her and she designed it. And much like what you do with me, you come to me and you go, this is a very rare piece of cashmere sapphire, I want you to do this, this, and this, and this. And then I take it and I interpret what you want and try to give it as much beauty as I can, because that's my skill. And then together we've done a collaboration where the collection is all based on that, whether it's the putratites, the pozoicites, the cashmere sapphires, the Madagascar bicolor. Each one has a history now and a story to it. And we've also cataloged it, because you can show the locality, and I can then show the steps along the way in my lapidary studio, so you can see the work that I'm doing, the equipment that it takes, and then coming together, and then the final interpretation.
So I will keep this all together as a collection.
That's correct.
And once your brand will be the new star, we will participate in that fame that you created for yourself by having with us part of you.
That's right. Hopefully I'll still be a living legend, not a dead legend.
No. We're keeping each other.
Yeah, keeping each other
alive by passion, projects, and everything. And so you will be always part of my life.
And yours and mine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cut